What, you haven't remarried yet? My ex-husband insulted me by calling me an uneducated fool and eloped with a younger woman. Upon seeing me after 10 years and noticing that I had kept my maiden name, he said condescendingly, "If you want, I can take you back." What kind of way to speak is that? Idiotic. It seems like I need to teach him the reality. Do you know what the most common surname in the US is? The answer is Smith. Apparently, there are about 1.9 million people with the surname Smith in the US. My surname used to be Smith before I got married. My name is Sophia. Right after graduating from high school, I moved to New York and ended up working for a company there. My ex-husband, Dylan, was a colleague at that company. He was 10 years older than me, and to me, who had just graduated from high school, he seemed very mature and reliable. He took great care of me when I was still in my teens. I was very fond of him, and it didn't take long for us to start dating as we became conscious of each other. He patiently accepted my whims and always escorted me smartly on our dates. Being a salesperson, he was refreshing to look at and handsome, and I fell for him more and more. After a year of dating, he proposed to me. I was just turned 20 at the time. There was a significant age gap, so people around me said, "You should think it over." But I loved him for his maturity and couldn't imagine marrying anyone else, so I decided to go through with it. Love is blind, or so they say. Looking back, I regret not living together before getting married to see his true colors. But at that time, I was truly happy, delighted to come home to the same house as Dylan, and above all, thrilled to share his last name. Until then, whether at work or school, whenever someone called him Ms. Smith, multiple people would respond. Yes, and I had to write my full name when everyone else could just write their last names. His last name wasn't that rare, but I was glad to be free from such nuisances. Let's get back to talking about my married life with Dylan. Initially, it was truly blissful. I continued to work even after getting married, but since it's not ideal for a couple to be in the same department, I was transferred from sales to an administrative position. I didn't have a strong attachment to sales, so this was no problem at all. In fact, since I wasn't good at sales, I even felt lucky. We shared household chores and helped each other out. "You'll handle the cooking, I'll do my best with everything else," Dylan would say, actively doing his part. We hardly interacted at work. But when we leave the office at the same time, we'd leave the office together and shop for dinner on our way home. It was a very happy time. However, after 3 years of marriage, things gradually started to go awry. First, our clock-out time no longer matched up. Where we used to go home together at least once a week, I started getting messages like, "I have to work late," or "I have a drinking party with clients." Being in a different floor from Dylan, who was in sales, I couldn't grasp the situation. Unlike administrative roles where I can leave at regular hours, I fully understood that sales involved a lot of networking and could be very busy. Despite feeling lonely, I tried to accept it as part of the job. Then, Dylan stopped doing household chores altogether. One night, before a day off, he texted, "I'll be working late, so go ahead and sleep," so I prepared dinner and went to bed early. When I woke up in the morning, the used dishes were still on the table. There was trash from alcohol and snacks scattered around, and his suit was discarded all the way from the entrance to the living room. And there he was, snoring on the sofa, belly out. He probably hadn't taken a shower or brushed his teeth before passing out after drinking. Seeing Dylan's sloppy appearance for the first time left me stunned for a moment, but realizing this couldn't go on, I said, "Wake up. Or you'll catch a cold." He sluggishly got up, clicked his tongue, and muttered, "Clean up before you say anything, it's disgusting. This is just like a low-educated woman." And quickly went to take a shower. I was shocked by his harsh words, but acknowledging the room was in a terrible state, I cleaned up before he came out of the bath. After his shower, he just lounged on the sofa watching TV, showing no intention of doing any household chores on his day off. Thinking, he's tired from working overtime, it's hard to ask him to do more. I couldn't bring myself to say anything. My distrust towards Dylan grew stronger. Initially, it was just his neglect of household duties, but then he started to demean my character and work. One day, as I was doing chores with Dylan lounging around, he sighed and said, "You've got it easy with your job, no overtime." And then, well, sales might be too hard for a high school grad. Maybe you could have landed contracts by sleeping around for business when you were fresh and young, but you're rounding up to 30 now, right? It's impossible now. Though, I married you for your youth, and you aged so quickly. It's like a scam, really a scam. A scam for aging? That makes no sense. Sure, rounding up I'm 30, but you're even 40. Everyone ages, it's only natural. When I said that, Dylan suddenly threw the remote he was holding against the wall and started yelling. Women just deteriorate with age, but men get better with age. Don't compare. I was so scared by his outburst that I froze and couldn't speak. Humph, you can't even rebut my logical argument. Typical of an uneducated woman to be so presumptuous towards a man. With that, he stormed off and didn't come back that day. From then on, he would start yelling about anything. Even though you come home on time, cleaning and meals are half done. Low-educated people really can't get anything right. Apologize me. Who do you think is providing the food you eat? Why should I apologize? I work full-time too. Providing food with whose earnings? Lately, since you haven't been contributing financially, it's been my earnings we're living off. There's so much I want to say, but I'm too scared to speak up when he starts yelling. An uneducated high school grad woman should just quietly serve your husband. Now that you're not young anymore. Remember that all you're good for is household chores. You, old woman. He said, looking down at me smugly as I silently hung my head. Then, one day. When I came home from work, the lights were on in the house. Had Dylan come home early? I thought it was unusual as I opened the door, only to find unfamiliar women's shoes next to Dylan's. A guest, perhaps? I had a bad feeling. I'm home. As I opened the living room door, there was Dylan, sprawled on the sofa, with a young, beautiful woman I'd never seen before. Leaning on his shoulder. Who might you be? A guest. I couldn't grasp the situation and just looked back and forth between their faces. Seeing me, they both started laughing. Just like you said. She's just an ordinary old lady, hilarious. The woman, despite her beautiful face, was laughing crudely, clapping her hands. It reminded me oddly of a stuffed monkey I once saw that played the tambourine. This is Olivia. She just graduated from university. Unlike you, she's a well-educated lady. I'm starting a new life with her. I can't stand being with an old woman like you anymore. We're getting divorced today. He said so coldly. It's your fault for getting older and deteriorating after being young and cute when we first met. Low education really is no good. The divorce is all your fault. I was shouted at by Dylan and had no choice but to accept the divorce. Now that you're of no use to me, let's go. She linked arms with Dylan and said, well, we're eloping now, as if to show off to me. Elopement. What about your job? What's going to happen to this house? I've quit my job. I'm starting my life over. The lease is cancelled. Leave by the end of the week. We're done, so don't follow or look for me. Bye. They left the house together, looking very much in love. I sat at the entrance in a daze for a while. After that, my memory becomes a bit hazy. I think I continued to go to work as usual. Before I knew it, I had moved to a new apartment, so I must have managed the move properly. It was about half a year after the divorce that I started to regain my composure. It was then that my colleagues at work started to say things like, so you got divorced. We were surprised when Dylan suddenly quit his job. You looked pale, but you seem to be doing much better now, and I could finally accept that the divorce was real. But strangely, I felt no emotion about it. I'm sorry for worrying everyone. I am okay now. I'll keep doing my best at work. I had recovered enough to respond with energy. From then on, I started my new life afresh. Living alone for the first time turned out to be more comfortable than I expected, and my job was fulfilling, so I spent busy but enjoyable days. And just like that, 10 years have passed since the divorce. I'm now 35, which rounds up to 40. At this age, I think to myself, 35 is still young. At 25, 10 years ago, I was practically a baby in the eyes of society. I'm still working at the same company as 10 years ago, but since it was a day off, I went shopping at a nearby mall. While resting on a bench after shopping, a man suddenly spoke to me. Eh? Are you Sophia? I turned towards the voice and saw a middle-aged man standing there. It's me. Wow, you haven't changed a bit. Hearing his voice unlocked a flood of memories. This middle-aged man was Dylan, who had eloped with a young, beautiful college graduate. But it's no wonder I didn't recognize him. He had aged considerably compared to the fresh and handsome man he was 10 years ago. I think he's 45 now, but he looked more like 65. A protruding belly, a thinning hairline. His face was covered in oily blemishes. Even though it wasn't midsummer, he was in a t-shirt, with sweat creating stains. And he smelled bad. I wonder what had happened to him over these 10 years. While I was still in shock, Dylan rambled on. Has it been 10 years? You must have been lonely without me, huh? Wait, you're still using the Smith as your surname? You must have been waiting for me because you couldn't forget me. He noticed the name tag on my bag and smirked. The sight of his dark, broken front teeth peeking through his slightly open mouth only added to his unkempt appearance. That woman I eloped with was only after money. When I changed jobs and my salary dropped, she took all the money and ran off. Even if a woman is young and well-educated, it's no good if she's not charming. You might be a high school grad and quite aged. But considering you waited for me, I might be willing to remarry you. What? Who do you think you are? I'll bring him back to reality. I'm already remarried, actually. Eh? No, that's a lie. You're still using your maiden name, aren't you? Dylan raised his voice in disbelief. Indeed, my surname is still Smith. How many Smith do you think there are in the US? My new husband's surname happens to be Smith too. No, that's a lie. There's no way a woman like you, aged and low-educated, could remarry so easily. I don't believe it. You don't even have a ring. I usually wear it all the time, but what bad timing. People around us were watching our conversation from a distance. Just then, a man intervened between Dylan and me, saying, "Please stop harassing her." Who are you? I'm Joshua, Sophia's husband. He is my husband now. Joshua joined our company, and for some reason, he fell in love at first sight with me, who was somewhat downcast after my divorce. Despite swearing off marriage and romance, I was drawn to his kind nature and ended up remarrying. He happens to be the same age as me. A former rugby player, he has a very large build. Joshua? That's not what I'm asking. Sophia, leave that guy and come back home right now. Startled by Joshua's sudden appearance, Dylan blustered and shouted while clearly rattled. The divorce was all on your terms. After all the ridicule, there's no way I'm going back to how things were. I used to freeze up and lose my voice when yelled at, but Joshua gave me the courage to firmly refuse. Dylan seemed taken aback by my response, his eyes bulging and his body trembling. His hands clenched into fists, looking as though he was about to throw a punch at any moment. Then a voice rang out, "Don't bully mommy." The voice belonged to my daughter, Emma. "Hey, it's dangerous, I told you to wait over there." When Joshua tried to hold her back, she protested, "Mommy is being bullied." I hate that man. Go away, and she tried to confront Dylan. Witnessing Emma's resolute stance, Dylan just gaped, speechless. What? No way, you didn't just go. You had another man's child. It's none of your business what Sophia does or where she goes after divorcing you, Joshua stated calmly. Dylan's face turned bright red with rage as he began to rant. I won't accept this. I won't acknowledge it. Sophia, come back. I'll forgive you now, and I'll even accept the child. I'll become the child's father. Be grateful. Every word he said was creepy, making my skin crawl. Joshua felt the same way. Emma's father is me. Stop this nonsense or I'll call the police. Contrary to Joshua, Dylan was getting more agitated. Damn it. If you weren't here. Damn it. For some reason, he charged at Joshua like a bull. But Joshua, unruffled, smoothly dodged him. His movement was as graceful as that of a matador. As for Dylan, unable to stop his momentum, he rolled on the ground. Fortunately, no one was in his path. Sophia. I'm saying I'll forgive you now. Lying on his back, Dylan was fuming mad. He didn't seem capable of getting up, but given his energy, it didn't seem too serious. As Joshua and I exchanged glances, wondering what to do, a security guard came over and surrounded Dylan. It appears someone who witnessed the commotion had called for help. We're sorry for causing a disturbance, we apologized, to no one in particular. Let's go home, Joshua said, putting his arm around me, but I was too shocked to move. Mommy, let's go. Let's go home. Realizing Emma was tugging at my clothes brought me back to reality. Damn it. Don't forget this. We heard Dylan howling behind us, but we didn't look back as we left. Later on, I found out that someone who worked at the same company as Dylan was among the witnesses at the mall. His misdeeds became widely known within the company, and with no place left for him, he was forced to resign. He used to be a high-performing salesperson, but with his condescending attitude, re-employment might be difficult. What goes around comes around. I was somewhat amazed that karma truly exists. But if bad deeds come back to haunt you, then surely good deeds will too. I want to live my life loving and caring for those around me as much as I can. And never forget to be grateful. That's what I believe. Mommy. I'm hungry. Is dinner ready yet? Alright, it'll be ready soon, just wait a bit. I hastened my cooking in response to Emma's urging. I prepare dinner while watching Joshua play with Emma. It's my happiest time.